Welcome to Action Coaching. We're certainly delighted that you join us on today because I believe that God has a special coaching word just for you. Now, the vision of Action Coaching is to give you some coaching tips, things that you can glean and develop, and we're just kind of giving you tips that you can pursue in your life so that you can become the very best of what God has designed you to be. And certainly we thank God for this time to just coach the people of God. Want to encourage you to let others know about Action Coaching because nobody makes it without a coach. All of us need a coach, a mentor, an advisor, someone to kind of instruct us as to the way that we must go. Now, a coach cannot take away the adversity you're going to face, but they can give you some tips on how to navigate the road. I like to use this example. Years ago when we were going places, then you had to have a map. Now this was for the navigation and all of these things they got on the phone now. You had to kind of read the map. And you look on the map and say, I got to turn this way, I got to turn that way. But years later, came along where they got a navigation system on the phone, in the car, and it talks to you. And it tells you 50 feet, turn right. Or it tells you these different things. And so it's the same thing, but it's just a different way of making things better by coaching you. And that's what Action Coaching is all about. Now, this week, I want to talk about my definition of success. You want to be successful? Of course you do. A lot of people want to be successful. I'm going to kind of give you my definition of what it takes to be successful. I believe that to be successful, you got to understand you are fighting an invisible foe. Yes, look at yourself. If you're in the ring and you boxing, you think you're in there boxing by yourself because you can't see the other person boxing. So you're fighting an invisible being for a visible dream that you've already saw. Let me say that again. You're fighting an invisible foe for a visible dream that you've already saw. And that's my definition of success. Now, why is it that so many people are not successful? It's because a lot of people, first place, won't move till they can see something. You know, a lot of people say, I believe it if I see it. Well, that don't make much sense, because if you see it, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe for it, you see it. You know, if I see my car in the front yard, I don't have to stand out there and say, I'm believing for my car. Lord, I'm believing for my car. I don't have to believe for my car. I see the car. I can walk up to the car and drive it, or sit in the car, or turn the radio on, so I don't have to believe for the car. A lot of people are unable to achieve great success because they want to see too many things before they go. Now, what in the world? Why can you call that success when you got to see everything? That's why when you talk to people about success, I don't believe I can do it. I don't believe I can make it. I don't believe I looked at so-and-so and they tried it and they failed. Well, you're not so-and-so, and you don't know what so-and-so did to fail. So then you say, I'm suffering from low self-esteem. Well, what is low? Who told you what was low? Is that something you heard somebody say and you just immediately adopted for yourself? I know dreaming is daunting sometimes because you can have great big dreams and instantly your mind will tell you, you don't think you're going to do that. How in the world you going to be a part of something that big? And that's where the problem comes. So what happens is, people that are successful Yes, there is an invisible foe out there. Because a lot of times when you start down the road to success, you don't necessarily see the things that's going to come against you before you get to your ultimate end. Because a lot of times on the road to success, things that are going to pop up come against you. It makes you think, if I knew all this was going to happen to me, I would have never started striving for that dream. But you got to be persistent, you got to be consistent, and you got to be at a place that you are not going to give up. I remember, when they had the circus, I mean, they still have circus to the extent, you just got fancy now, you got all these different places now. But during that time, we went to the circus and we'd all go through the haunted house. Now, when we would go through the haunted house, what they call a haunted house, first of all, when we got in there was nothing jumping out of the wall, no strange faces, nothing happening that would frighten us because we could see it looked like any other house. But as we began to move through it, here's where the problem came into being. When something would jump out that we could not see, everybody got frightened. They were screaming, they were hiding, they were, people grabbing each other, and then that particular thing would go back in the dark. And just as we thought we could move by that, we turn another corner, something else jumps out. And oh my goodness, it was even worse than the first thing we saw. More screaming and hollering, and some people say, I want to go back. I don't want to walk no more. It's them too frightening. But the whole issue was, for some of us, that no matter what we saw or we didn't see, we was determined that we will make it to the end. That was the whole goal of going into the haunted house. Now, in order to be successful in life, you can see the dream. You know what you want to be. But the thing of it is that stops most people is they can see the dream, they can know what they want, they just want to skip over all of these invisible things in between. And oh yes, they are there waiting on you. So you got to fight these invisible things in order to achieve the visible thing that you see that you can have. If I'm going from Atlanta, Georgia to Washington, D.C., I can actually pull up how the Washington, D.C. look. I can see Washington, D.C. on the map. I can talk to people that are from Washington, D.C. But if I want to go, I got to do a couple of things. If I'm driving, I got to have a car, gas money, and all those things, and I got to be prepared to drive to Washington, D.C. If I'm flying, I got to have money, purchase a ticket on the plane, get on the plane, and the plane's going to fly me to Washington, D.C. There is some things that I'm going to have to put energy in and I'm going to have to do before I get to my ultimate goal. A person is not successful because we say they're successful. They're successful because they fought the invisible and so that they can achieve the visible. What do you mean? If he's a successful football player, he didn't just pick up a football one day and say, I'm a successful football. He had to be in Little League football, the next level football. He had to get hit, knocked out sometimes even bones are broken in the pursuit of the game. But he had to keep on going. He had to keep on moving because he saw something bigger for himself. He could not let adversity stop him. He could not let the things that he never saw were going to happen stop him. He had to have his eyes on his goal. Successful people don't get caught in the trials and struggles of the dream. They just keep pushing. They just understand that what I see right now is invisible, meaning that it's fighting me right now, and I don't know where it's coming from, but I also see that when I make it through this, this is what I'm going to achieve. I told this story years ago when I used to teach, first time I was ever teaching a Sunday school class. And I was teaching a Sunday school class full of young kids. And I was excited about teaching these young kids Sunday school class. And this class was we're going to learn the books of the Bible. Now, don't want you to go anywhere. I'm going to be right back to tell you about learning the books of the Bible. Welcome back. I left off talking about how I had a Sunday school class of kids, and in that class that day we were going to learn the books of the Bible. And so as I was teaching them the books of the Bible, we came to the book in the Bible in the Old Testament, the book of Lamentation. That's the name of the book, the Old Testament. And so I was teaching the kids how to say the book of Lamentation. And most of them were getting it right. And one young boy kept saying, limitations. And I kept saying to him, this is the book of Lamentation. And he would say, limitation. And he couldn't seem to get it out of his mouth. But you know, a revelation came to me. Because what I was trying to teach him to say, he was seeing and saying something else. He was calling it the book of limitation. And sometimes I found out that we do that stuff to ourselves in life. A lot of us are so stuck in the book of limitation. And for the life of me, we can't even hardly put the finger on what's limiting us, other than it's our own selves, and it's inside of us, but we putting the limit on ourselves. We just dare to dream that no matter what we have to face, what we have to go through, how many times I fail. You fail, get up. You fail again, get up. That's all a part of it. Because when you reach your goal, you would have won against the invisible enemies. You cannot plan everything along the way. That's what's wrong with a lot of people. They can't be successful because I got to do my planning. 10 years later, they still planning. 20 years later, they still planning. But at some point to be successful, you're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to dare to get out there and trust that even though it may be unknown, still your goal is there. I've done it. Many other people have done it. And that's the way it should be done. Because when you're fighting that invisible enemy, he's constantly telling you things that are not true. You ain't even seen it to be true. A lot of times people can paint something, and then you look at it and say, oh, that ain't good. Ain't nobody gonna like that. Well, have you had an opinion first? Have you put it out there? Get a survey, see how many people like it or don't like it? You want to try something else, and instantly in your mind, you say, I'll never be as successful as this person, this guy, or this woman. Well, why can't you say, I can be even more successful if I push myself through this cloud, if I give it a go myself? There are things in all of us right now that we have yet to see, yet to even develop in our lives, because the invisible enemy is telling us, you don't have that skill, you don't have that talent, but it's time you start wrestling with that invisible enemy to achieve your goal. Success is possible, but I ain't telling you it's going to be easy. Because anything that's easy pretty much is something that's not going to last. But I can tell you that success is possible. But you got to put the work in. You got to persevere. You got to be willing to walk alone sometime, work alone, strive alone, cry alone, but keep going toward your goal. You can defeat the invisible enemy, because I've come to understand a lot of people say you're not going to make it. You know, they have that term, they said you weren't going to be nothing. They never give they a name. Who is they? But I found out who they is. They is the people that are not going to ever be successful, and they're not going to go where you go. That's why you got a they. But the people that are successful and understand what you got to go through, they are cheering you on, because they understand it ain't easy to make it here. There's no map to making it here. You got to get out there and experience it yourself. So that's my definition, being successful. You got to wrestle with the invisible enemy to achieve the goal in your life. I understood that when God first gave me a vision of what I could be. Now, I didn't know everything I was going to face. If I'd have saw what I was going to face, chances are I never would have went. If I knew some of the stuff that I went through and been through was waiting on me, I'd say, no, God, you can have that. Brother man is good right here where he is. I don't want to face that. But however, when I dared to say that I believe I can do that, and everything that popped out at me, just like earlier I described about the haunted house, when things would jump out of the dark and try to scare everybody, yes, I was walking through that same haunted house. There are things that jumped out the dark that said, maybe you ought to give this up. Maybe you shouldn't work so hard. There's nobody clapping for you. There's nobody cheering you on. But I kept saying, invisible enemy, you are defeated. I see my goal. I have this vision inside my head, and nothing is going to stop me from striving toward my goal. If this same thing is happening to you, you need to write yourself a note and say, I know what kind of ability and talent I have, and no matter how much work, hard work I have to put in, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep striving, because all those invisible things that are trying to hinder me from achieving my goal, they've already been beaten. They've already been destroyed, because I'm going to see this through to the end. That's my definition of success. How to be successful. I would love to hear from you. Sit down and write me. Use the social media and reach out to me. Because those of you that write, you can write too. I'd love to have you write to me. Reach out to me on social media and let me know that yes, I'm going to be successful. And yes, Bishop, I'm already fighting my invisible enemies. And I'm conquering them each and every day. Because I found out this about faith. Faith does not give you sight in advance. Faith gives you sight as you begin. Let me say that again. Faith does not give you sight in advance. Faith gives you sight as you begin. So when you take that step, faith gives you sight. When you take that next one, faith gives you sight. Now there's going to be a whole lot of invisible things that you don't see yet that's going to come to try to stop you. But understand, every step of faith, every bit of work you put in, you get better, you get stronger, you get more confident, you trust more, you push through more, you find yourself getting closer and closer to your goal. Every time you hear that someone the world deems success, the first thing they start talking about is all of the trials they had to go through. And trust me, if you'd have saw all of those trials they had to go through, if they'd have saw all those trials they had to go through, a lot of them would have said, hey, I don't think it's worth that. But they pushed through those invisible things they did not see when they started, but they survived them because they saw their expected end. And that's what's so amazing. So reach out. I want to pray with you. Let me know. I started on my journey. Yes, I know there are a lot of invisible things that are waiting on me, but I see my end. And that I'm going to push through it. And I want you to be praying for me, encouraging me, pushing me, ask God to keep pushing me because I'm going to achieve my goal. And you will look around and say, that's the reason I'm successful. So I certainly want to encourage you to do that. Don't want you to go anywhere. I'll be right back to talk to you.
Got to be lions. We got to understand what the real purpose of the saints is and why you were born again. Just tap somebody and say, you here to take over. Whatever job you own, you there to take over. Whatever community you live in, you there to take over. Wherever you go, you there to take over.
Welcome back. Certainly, I trust that you enjoyed Action Coaching on today. I want you to sit down and sow a generous seed faith offering for the support of Action Coaching. I believe that God is going to richly bless you for helping us to continue to expand Action Coaching. We want to coach so many other people. We want to do some more creative things. And through your financial support, we are going to be able to do that. And certainly, I want you to sit down and sow that seed on today. Help us reach that goal. Some can sow 100, some can sow 200, 500, whatever. We ask you to help us on today. And understand this, the Lord will certainly bless you for the seeds you sown on today. There's a link in my bio that will give you a host of ways to give unto Action Coaching. And certainly, I want you to know we thank God for your support. And it is our prayer that God continue to bless you for the seeds you've sown on today. So thank God for your support. Before I leave you on today, I want you to join us for our exciting Action Impact Weekend. October the 27th through the 29th. There are going to be some exciting events happening. Of course, you're going to stay tuned. We're going to be sending out information. You're going to see so much information. But I want you to come. I want you to bring your friend and be there with us. The exciting Action Impact Weekend, October the 27th through the 29th. Looking forward to seeing you there. Now, as I do each and every week, I want to encourage you. Share the word with a friend and keep the word in action.